The Penrith Panthers, a team that has won 4 premierships in a row, but has started off the 2025 season off slowly. So we must ask, what happened to Penrith? I'll be going over how they rose in the first place and how they've fallen off, and why we shouldn't write them off just yet. This is my video on what happened to the Penrith Panthers. The first thing we talk about is the 2019 season for Penrith. 2019 looked to be positive, with the signing of Ivan Cleary from the West Tigers joining his son Nathan Cleary. Ivan had coached Penrith before, but had been sacked prematurely. But Penrith's 2019 season was over before it started, with a lot of off-season scandals, and Penrith's slow start to the season let everyone remember why Penrith are Penrith. Penrith had finished 5th the previous year going out in the second week, but Penrith had fallen, and after round 10 they were last, suffering a 30-10 loss against the New Zealand Warriors at home. Penrith would surge the rest of the season, winning 6 in a row, but eventually fizzling out, and they'd finish the season in 10th. Probably a good reflection despite how bad they were at stages. The 2020 season for Penrith was very good, as they wouldn't come in with that much optimism, but with Api Coruscant in and cutting a few experienced players they didn't need, actually really helped them. They'll be 2-0 before COVID-19 would cut off most of the 2019 season. A bit of a shaky start out of the break wouldn't help Penrith's nerves, but they would calm their fans' nerves very quickly, winning their next 15 games going into the finals. Penrith will claim a minor premiership, something they hadn't done in a while. They'd play the Roosters in their first final. Despite the Roosters' good start, Penrith would win by 1 point in a classic. They'd beat Souths in the prelim and would be on to the grand final against the Storm, coming off a dominant win against the Raiders. The Storm would rock the Panthers, leading 26-0 after 45 minutes. Penrith would fight back, but the game was over. Melbourne had beaten Penrith, and Penrith were rocked. Their fairy tale, their premiership didn't happen. They'd have to come back stronger the next year and defy the odds to win a premiership, their first since 2003. The 2021 season was another one filled with optimism. Penrith would have to use that grand final loss as fuel to their fire, and they would need nothing else, being 12-0 come the origin period. They would have a bit of a shaky rest of the year, but they were finishing second behind, you guessed it, the Melbourne Storm. Penrith would play the South Sydney Rabbitohs short of Latrell Mitchell because, I don't know, he wanted to kill Joey Manu for some reason. They'd play the Souths in a game they were very much expected to win. Blake Taaffe, who's that guy? Penrith would play badly and would lose by 6 points to Souths, in a game that doesn't really get talked about considering what happened 3 weeks later. Penrith would play the Eagles, coming off a very good win against the Knights in week 1. Penrith would win in a gritty, tough affair. A scoreless second half. They'd win 8-6, defending their line for a lot of the second half and needing the win. And in the grand final rematch of the ages, they'd play the Melbourne Storm. Penrith would score in the second minute for Stephen Crichton in a very similar way to a Matt Cavalli try in round 6. This is a play that not many teams would pick up on. But Penrith, they were different. Penrith would win in a classic game, 10-6. Despite Melbourne's poor performance, it was still a great game. Penrith would meet the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the grand final. A team that had just smashed the Manly Sea Eagles. I was there, sucked in Manly. It'd be a great game. A grand final that I don't really think gets talked about that much. Penrith would storm out of the blocks from Matt Burton, a 5'8", playing in the centres, and he would score the first try. Cody Walker would hit back, and Penrith would be leading 8-6 at halftime. South would level it up. Cody Walker, with 60 minutes into the grand final. All he has to do is dummy and run, and Souths have a 20-second premiership. Cody Walker passes it. The lethal left edge that dominated all year, ending up in the hands of Stephen Crichton, who would run away and pretty much win Penrith the grand final. Another big moment. Souths have just scored in the corner for Alex Johnston, who got his 30th try of the season. It's 14-12. Adam Reynolds at Suncorp Stadium, the home of the team he's going to next year, has a kick to send it to extra time. Adam Reynolds strikes it well, but it's just right. Penrith win in an absolute thriller and have claimed a premiership, their first in 18 years. Panthers had done it, off the back of their halfback's classy play, and having probably the game of his life. But 2 years later, he wouldn't even be talked about. Not even a year later it would be talked about. Penrith, they were good. In 2022, Penrith were looking to go back to back. They had a lot of expectations, and their side, while losing a few players, hadn't really gotten any worse. And Penrith, they'd be as good, if not better, than they were in 2021. Finishing first, comfortably. Despite having some blips late in the year against the Storm and the Eagles, the Panthers looked ready, primed to win the premiership. Week 1, they played the one team they hadn't beaten all year, the Parramatta Eagles. Could Penrith beat them? Well, 50 minutes in, the Eagles led 8-7 in a very weird scoreline. But the injury to Mitch Moses would cause the Panthers to storm home, winning by 19, 27-8. They'd watch Eagle, and yet again, they'd play the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Another grand final rematch for the ages. Would Penrith get a taste of their own medicine, or would they win easily? South would score the first 2 tries. Penrith looked shell-shocked. Keyword, looked. They weren't. Penrith would hit the lead by half-time, and they'd win 32-12, pretty comfortably in the end. They'd go through to the grand final against the Eagles, a team that probably shouldn't have been there, with a forward pass try getting them in. But Eagles fans would say they were the much better team against the Cowboys. The Eagles wouldn't show up, and Penrith would be up 28-0. They had won. Despite 2 last-minute tries to Parramatta, Penrith had completed their most dominant season yet. They'd go back-to-back in emphatic style. Penrith were ready for a 3rd straight in 23. 2023 looked like it was going to be another good year for Penrith. Despite losing Kickow and Coruscant, Penrith was still primed. And despite a bit of a shaky start, they'll be minor premiers yet again. In week 1, they would torch the Warriors, 32-6 at their home grounds. And in the prelim finals, they'd meet the Storm, a team that had played them a lot in finals recently. Penrith would torch them 38-4. They would play a new team, a team that finished 9th the previous year after being in the top 4 5 rounds to go, the Brisbane Broncos. Broncos are the biggest club in the land. A lot of fans against Penrith. Penrith would head out onto Accor Stadium that night, feeling ready. They would dominate the first half, being by far the better team. Mitch Kenny would score off a short drop-out failure from Brisbane, and they'd be up 8-0. A Tom Flegler try on half-time would really hurt Penrith. Penrith would lead 8-6 at the break, but it felt like it was a missed opportunity, and the Broncos would punish them. That they did. A hat-trick to young 5'8" Ezra Mann would give the Broncos a 24-8 lead. Penrith were done. Their dynasty was over. The Broncos were going to start their own dynasty. A young team, a young exciting team that played a very flashy brand of footy. Unless one halfback went ultra instinct, Penrith were not winning the grand final, and their legacy erased. But they could do it. Nathan Cleary would make a break and pass it to Moses Leota. He would put Penrith not back in the game, but give them a chance. But surely the Broncos couldn't let this one slip. A 40-20 immediately in that set would not lead to a try. That meant the game was over, right? Penrith would have the ball camped on Brisbane's line before Stephen Crichton would power his way over. Nathan Cleary would kick the kick. It would be a 4-point game. We're in for an absolute epic. The man who had gone ultra instinct to set up the comeback would complete the ultimate comeback, beating lousy Brisbane defence to give Penrith their third straight premiership. And Nathan Cleary would win his second Clive Churchill medal, and Penrith would win by 2 points in one of the great grand finals we've seen in a long time. 2024 for Penrith was the year everyone thought they'd finish first. Yet again, they would lose in the first round. Losing to Melbourne, a bit of a lousy performance, losing 8-0. Penrith would stabilise a bit, and they'd be the best team most of the year. Well, maybe not most of the year. Penrith would finish second behind the Melbourne Storm, a team that had really played well that year and had beaten them twice. Penrith would play the Roosters, another team that had played really good footy, and would torch them 30-10. Penrith were a champion team. Everyone knew that by now. If Penrith were going to complete a four-peat, they'd have to do it tough. In the prelim final, they'd play the Cronulla Sharks, a team that hadn't won a final before their last win in 6 years. And it will be a tight affair for about 70 minutes. Sione Katoa would score, bringing the score to 10-6. Penrith would storm away though, scoring 3 late tries to blow the margin out to 26-6. Penrith were into their 5th straight grand final against the Storm, the team that had almost kick-started their dynasty despite the loss. And Penrith would do it again. Despite Harry Grant scoring the first try, Penrith would respond and would actually lead at half-time through a Liam Martin try. Despite a controversial Jack Howe with no try, Penrith would still win. Paul Alamotti would score the sealer, and Penrith had won 4 straight. A team that no team had done that since the 1920s. On your Penrith. So, after all those years of dominance, what has happened in 2025? Now, obviously, I've been away for all their games except for the Vegas game, but after watching all the highlights and realistically just seeing how the games have gone, we can probably put it down to their left edge just being really bad defensively. But you can't write them off just yet. The Penrith Panthers, they'll find a way to come back, and I can't wait for this video to age really badly. The Panthers, I have belief that they can jump up the ladder, because at the moment, they're in a really bad spot. They beat the Sharks in round 1, but they've lost 4 in a row. They need to just iron up defensively, because they've lost all that defence they had. When you fought a Penrith, you fought a defence, you didn't think of their attack. I think what the Panthers need is just to get that system back, get that defence going. Because some of their losses, they've been conceding, absolutely, like, ridiculous amounts of points being put on them. I'm pretty sure they've conceded 20 points in all of their losses, all of their games. So I think Penrith, you just got to iron up defensively, and I think just got to get back, because they can still make top 4. I'm not doubting them just yet. There'd be a bit of a rise if they can make it up the ladder. I think they will win against the Dolphins. Penrith will be a bit miffed, and they'll need to make a statement against the Dolphins, I think. Put them to the sword and give us some hope that they know what they're doing. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. A bit of something different. I usually don't make teams. I don't make videos about other teams. But I thought this would be a really good video to make, going over Penrith's dominance, and just, I admire it. I'd kill for my team to, be in the position Penrith are in. We've gone through the exact opposite of them, pretty much. So I'm just, I wouldn't even care if we won the grand finals. If we made it to 5 straight grand finals, I'd be definitely, up and about. I'd be at all of them, trust me. I'd be there in a heartbeat. I just think Penrith, let's see how many bandwagoners leave by the end of the year. Yeah, I just hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.